The steam cleaning business I bought 1 year ago has been a disaster. I've sunk nearly $300,000 into the thing. I haven't made a dime of profit, and more losses are expected in the near future.
Why?
Here are just a few things I've learned so far and what I plan to do to fix it. The first lesson is to not underestimate the role of the previous owner. When I was looking to buy this business, I did not appreciate the level of effort that the previous owner must have been putting towards getting customers and actually doing sales. Sales are about 50% lower than where they were in the previous years before I bought the business. And that's with even more ad spending on top of what the previous owner had been doing. That hurts. I think the previous owner was pretty well connected in the area, so he had a number of his acquaintances and people around the area that trusted him and used the service because of that. I'm not as well connected, so that was cut against me, and I wasn't planning on taking a very active role in this business because when I bought it, I was still in big law at the time, I was working a day job that was very intense, so I was using this as more of a semi-passive investment. At least that was the goal. And I knew that limitation going in, so I had a plan to try and address it. Which brings me to the second lesson. No leader means no progress. I hired a general manager right from the get-go. I knew I needed someone in there to manage the day-to-day operations of the business because, like I said, I was busy with my job. But in hindsight, the way I did this was problematic. For one, I did not offer equity to this manager, so they weren't incentivized like an owner, which in itself isn't a huge deal. The problem is, this person also had another job. And I was okay with this at the time because at least the way we expected this to go is that once the business would grow, then the manager's pay would grow as well. I was giving a share of revenue, so even though I wasn't giving equity, I still was giving some sort of upside share. So as the business grew, the manager's pay would also grow, so there should have been some pretty aligned incentives on that front. But he was making a lot more money in his other job, and that was especially problematic when sales immediately off the bat were quite a bit lower than expected, about half as low. So you now had a problem where the cut of revenue that this manager was getting was even lower than we expected, and it was already low relative to his existing job, so the incentives were no longer very aligned. And I was naive in waiting for sales to recover and grow on their own. If someone isn't incentivized like an owner, I shouldn't expect them to act like one. How would sales increase without someone really in there in the trenches pushing things forward? And this isn't to take away what my manager has done to this point, since he has put a number of hours into the business and has helped to put a lot of fires out and to help through various problems with the day-to-day operations, but it really hasn't been enough to drive anything forward. We've been very stagnant over the last year. We need someone in there with an ownership incentive who can try and push that forward. I did not align incentives properly here, and going forward, I'm going to be a lot less scared about giving up equity when it means it could drive the business forward in a big way. Because 100% of a perpetually money-losing operation is worth a lot less than, say, 60% of an operation that sustainably makes profit. So if that's what it takes, I'm going to try to be more willing to do that. But either way, it's going to take even more investment to turn things around here, which brings me to the third lesson, which is related to that very point. Throwing money at things is no guarantee of success. Over the last year, I tried a few band-aid fixes to try and move the ball forward. One of these efforts was hiring a bunch of contracted salespeople to try and cold call a bunch of businesses to try and up our commercial customers, but that didn't really work. Partly because we still weren't really in the trenches with them trying to push the ball forward like we could have been if an owner was there with them the entire time, working on scripting every single day, working on actually working those leads every single day, and really just being in the trenches. It might have been a different result, but that's not what we did. We just kind of threw money at the problem, and it didn't really work. Another quote-unquote effort involved throwing a bunch of money at more ad spend, and we did see a slight boost, but not proportional to the ad spend. And the marketing materials that we have still need quite a bit of work, so it's not like we were rolling out a super great ad campaign. The bottom line is these sorts of things were pretty lazy attempts to try and turn things around just by throwing money at it. And as I learned, that does not really work. For a sales team to work well, you probably need many months to work things out, get a script really in line, figure out how to overcome very common objections, and actually really come to know the product really well so you can communicate that to potential customers. Leads, especially on the commercial side, take time to actually nurture and close. And ad copy and campaigns take time and attention to really work well. Spending money on one thing in 1 month, only to turn around the next month and spend money on some other thing, isn't going to really bode well for the long term because you can't really set up these things with a great foundation because there's simply not enough time to do it. It's really hard to improve on something if you're just switching your attention to something else in the next month. And it's expensive. Now, I know this business can be profitable. There are other profitable cleaning businesses in the area, and this very business, at least according to its previous records, was profitable at some point, and that's just within the past couple of years. I need to make sure I give properly incentivized people time to work and test things out. Now, looking at next steps, we're bringing on a new manager to take over operations for this business, and this manager is going to have the opportunity to earn a significant equity stake if certain financial milestones are met. This manager has experience in running teams and has worked in and around home services before, and this is expected to be his main focus. And while I'm optimistic that things will turn around this year, I know it's going to take some time, at the very least quite some months. I can't expect a turnaround in a month or two. It might even take beyond this year to really get to the place where I'd want this business to be. And I need to focus on making sure that incentives are aligned for each person and then be okay with time passing. Another option would be to try and sell this business, although I can't expect a very lucrative sale given the financial performance over the past year. And another option would be to shut down the business and call it a day. But I could always wait until tomorrow to do that. Either way, I'll keep you posted on what's proven to be an expensive adventure. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.